On September 20th, 2008, it seemed like a normal day in Knoxville, Tennessee, when FBI agents surrounded a university apartment building. Inside, some college students were enjoying an evening of partying when agents stormed the building. They were there to carry out a warrant and were looking for David Kernell. When FBI searched the property, David was nowhere to be found. According to an Associated Press article, when the FBI got to the front door, David fled out the back to escape arrest. David was wanted for his connection to the hacking of U.S. Senator Sarah Palin. At about midnight, over the course of 30 minutes, David took over Sarah Palin's email and leaked the entire contents of it on 4chan.
On Tuesday, an anonymous person or persons hacked into Governor Palin's account.
So it ultimately, as the jury concluded, resulted in the deletion of evidence.
Well, I think he's an idiot, and they're probably not going to let him use a computer ever again.
And in a case like this, if anybody other similarly situated person had hacked into somebody's account, they would not be looking at 50 years in jail.
In this video, we'll be exploring David's story, the conspiracies behind it, and how it ties into the greater 4chan chaos theory. David seemingly grew up in a stable, middle-class, almost upper-middle-class family. His dad was a state senator, more on that later, and his mom's occupation is not known. Growing up, he showed a lot of potential. In 2006, he won the Tennessee Open Scholastic Chess Championship, and in 2008, he graduated from Germantown High School. After high school, he was accepted into the University of Tennessee.
Well, this is weird. No blood. It's only been a day. I don't understand. No, I'm not going to ask about feminine hygiene issues on 4chan. You've got to relax with that site, man. Ah, here we are.
Around this time, David would spend a lot of his time on the message board 4chan, consuming a lot of content and posting a lot. 4chan is an image board that was founded in 2003. The website features different boards where users can post and comment on different niches. Most of the niches are pretty normal, like anime or tech, but the attack was perpetrated by 4chan's random B-board. You can think of boards like subreddits on Reddit, and B-board was a very, very toxic one. For decades, the board has been an incubator of memes, or I could say a cesspool of memes, helping mainstream memes like lolcats, rickrolling, and the anonymous group. It should also be mentioned that for many people, 4chan is associated with hate speech and far-right groups. Pepe the Frog, a 4chan meme, has literally been labeled a hate symbol. I wanted to mention this, but we'll go deeper on the chaotic side of 4chan later in the video.
Yeah, at a rally in North Carolina this week, you said that you'd like to visit the, quote, pro-America parts of the country. Are there parts of the country that you consider un-American?
Oh, you know, that was just my lame attempt at a joke, but, yes, New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Delaware, California.
On September 16th, around midnight, David Kernell would start the hack. Just 30 minutes later, he had access to the emails. So how did he do this? Surely it's not a simple method, right? Well, wrong. The method David used was so incredibly simple, some could say it's not even hacking, and he's more of a script kiddie. Basically, he just used forgot my password. This is similar to my other video on SIM swapping, where the methods that hackers use are the standard way someone who is not a threat actor could recover the account. Anyways, he gathered information from around the web about Palin, which he used to answer security questions like what town she was born in and where she met her husband. Once David got in, he spent some time reading through the emails, not thoroughly, but just snooping around. Then David, under the username Rubico, posted on the B-board that he had read Sarah Palin's personal emails because he was looking for something that, quote, would derail her campaign. Then he posted, quote, there's nothing here, nothing incriminating. All that I saw was personal stuff, some clerical stuff from when she was governor. Then David would make probably the biggest mistake I think he made. He posted the account password on the B-board and screenshots from within the account. What happened next really sucks for David. A B-board user logged in and changed the password. I mean, that would be expected, right? The B-board member then wrote an email to one of Palin's friends and let her know what happened. And in the email, he included the password so her friend could recover the account. The B community did not like that at all. He was basically labeled a white knight. After that, more users would attempt to log in, but Yahoo would automatically lock the account. The incident was basically considered a failure by some B-board members, one who claimed, quote, seriously B, we could have changed history and failed epically. Later in an interview, David would talk about how he was panicked, saying, yes, I was behind a proxy, only one. If this shit ever got out to the FBI, I was fucked. I panicked, I still wanted the information out there, so I posted the information, and then promptly deleted everything and unplugged my internet and just sat there in a comatose state. David knew what was coming. The hacker left behind traces of his activity. His IP address was logged at the proxy he used, ctunnel.com, and he also left his email address rubico10 when he posted on 4chan. Finally, the screenshots that he posted revealed his original web address used by the proxy. After the hack, David got up from his computer, his heart pounding. The next thing he did was important. David deleted his browsing history. This will come into play later. Next, he got up from the desk and took a cold shower. David knew how bad things could get for him if he was tracked. He just breathed and reflected on how risky his actions were. So what were the contents of the hack? There's some stuff in here about her husband, some stuff about yoga, really just basic personal email stuff, some political stuff. She did use her emails to conduct some official business or some official government work. I don't think this is allowed, but it's not like she was charged or anything, so it doesn't really matter. I do remember in 2016 there was the whole email controversy, but this didn't really seem to come into play back in 2008.
There's been a heated debate swirling on the blogs about Governor Sarah Palin's Yahoo email account and whether she may have conducted official state business on it. That question certainly raises eyebrows, but the FBI is now focused on another incident involving her personal email. On Tuesday, an anonymous person or persons hacked into Governor Palin's account.
The investigation. The FBI were able to track the login to a VPN company and got the original IP address of Kernell.
This is a log of people who've used your site, and somewhere in this information is the guy who hacked into Sarah Palin's email.
Right, it should be the case.
Meet Gabriel Ramulia. He's the 25-year-old Athens computer guru who has the goods on the guy who hacked into Sarah Palin's email. That's because the hacker used Ramulia's website, vtunnel.com.
Yeah, it's well documented that VPN companies can just give you up like that, and that's what this company cTunnel did to David. Side note, this is why you should look for a VPN company that has a good reputation. Anyways, they were able to find the VPN company from the screenshots, which led them to the servers of the VPN company, and then they were able to obtain David's original IP address from cTunnel. And also, as I mentioned earlier, his Rubico accounts were associated to emails that used David's real name. Honestly, like most hackers, he had bad OPSEC, and that's what led him to getting caught. The trial of David Kernell. Roughly 2.5 years later, the trial began on April 20th, 2010, where David would be tried in federal court on charges of identity theft, wire fraud, obstruction of justice, and one optional felony misdemeanor of intentionally accessing an account without authorization. To be honest, he didn't have much of a defense. The main defense argument was that they would have to prove that the charges didn't fit the crime, that this was not identity theft. But in the end, the prosecution's case was too strong. The jury found Kernell guilty on 2 counts, the felony obstruction of justice and the misdemeanor unauthorized access to a computer. Like I said earlier, him deleting his search history would come into play here. He was found guilty on obstruction of justice just for clearing his search history. Anyways, now David would have to face consequences for his actions. David would be sentenced to 1 year in prison, and the judge actually made him serve it. It was kind of crazy. David was a first-time offender, and he was non-violent. But I think just because of how high profile the attack was, and the fact that Sarah Palin was probably pressuring the prosecutor to send him to jail, they just made him serve a year. And he did not get to go to a halfway house. As far as I can tell, he actually had to do a year in state prison, which, that's crazy to me. Anonymous group at this time was all over 4chan and all over the news. Some have speculated that David may have been in contact with Anonymous or a member of the Anonymous group. However, there isn't any concrete evidence to back this up. Personally, I don't think that David was part of Anonymous, but I don't think he was doing this alone either. Clearly, he had people on Bboard that he was communicating with and letting them know about the hacks. Plus, I don't think that David came up with the using the Forgot My Password feature to access this account. This seems like the kind of thing that he would have done before. Typically, the MO for this type of hacker is wanting attention from the public and wanting attention from other hackers. Anyways, here's an article from Wired back in 2008 mentioning Anonymous posted the emails, basically crediting the Anonymous group for David's hack. However, David is not mentioned in this article, which, in my opinion, makes the link a bit sketchy. Anyways, where there's smoke, there's fire, and it's definitely possible that David was involved with some members of Anonymous. Next, let's look at another conspiracy, that David was working for his dad or just working against Sarah Palin, or paid to work against Sarah Palin in some like political way. So like I said earlier, David's dad was a state senator. He has denied all connection to the hack, and I guess he even said that he didn't even ask his son if he did it so that he wouldn't have to testify in court against him. Similar to the anonymous group, there is not enough concrete evidence here, but it hasn't stopped people from speculating if David was a political actor. And he also did mention in his own 4chan post that he wanted to derail Sarah Palin's campaign. Basically what I'm saying is I can't prove that he was also working for like the Obama campaign. I also couldn't find any evidence that David had some like left-wing association besides his dad, or that he was like specifically working against the campaign. It's basically like a loose theory that a lot of the darkest things of the internet all come from 4chan. There is literally an insane amount of examples of 4chan causing interesting or chaotic events that end up in the news. Some of these include, but are not limited to, 4chan vs Scientology, 4chan vs the Cat Killer, 4chan green text theory, and the Fappening. So do I think it's true? Probably not. Maybe it's more likely that just like a lot of things that are pushed forward in the culture come from incel teens. That could be true, but I don't know necessarily if it's 4chan specific. In my opinion, 4chan is way less toxic as it's portrayed in the media. However, that doesn't mean that it isn't toxic. It's insanely toxic. I went on the site to do while I was researching this, and yeah, I don't ever want to go on it again. However, 90% of the people on there seem to be more interested in just finding a sense of community than actually, causing chaos. I think like most groups or most communities, 90% of the people on there are just, for the most part, somewhat regular people. But, you have your 10% or whatever that are just bad apples, and they can make the whole bunch go bad. Something like that. I don't know the saying. Anyways, after David served his year in jail, he would go back to the university and complete his degree. And from there, he'd actually become a software engineer. And yeah, a few years ago, he would die, so R.I.P. David. But for the most part, it does seem like he really turned his life around and was able to do some good things for his community and for his family. But anyways, thank you for watching. Go check out my last video. It's my biggest video I've ever made. It's about a SIM swap hacker who stole $24 million in Bitcoin. Anyways, thanks for watching. Please subscribe. Peace.